Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Peggy May, and I'm the chair of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce and the CEO of Southport Aerospace Centre. I see that we have an excellent turnout today. That's great. Great to see you all. It's my distinct pleasure to host today's webinar. This is the second time during our virtual event season that we've welcomed Minister Eichler to the Manitoba Pulley Power Hour hot seat. The last time Minister Eichler joined us was October 2020, when we were just moving into wave 2 of the pandemic in Manitoba. And unbeknownst to us, a serious set of capacity restrictions and non-essential business shutdowns were about to take effect. Now here we are today, pushing back hard against the third wave and hoping against hope that the difference this time around is that the vaccines are here. So thank you to Minister Eichler for joining us today. It seems very fitting that we are gathered again to talk economic strategy, and we're hoping to learn about recovery programs and support for businesses, and to hear your plans to incent and support job creation in this new economy. So before we get started, a few housekeeping items. We have muted all participants for best audio quality. Minister Eichler will have approximately 20 to 25 minutes to address participants. Following his remarks, Manitoba Chambers of Commerce President and CEO Chuck Davidson will lead a moderated question and answer period with the minister. We've received questions in advance, which we will tackle first, but if you didn't have a chance to submit a question, or maybe a new question has arisen for you, please post it in the Q&A panel, and Chuck can manage those questions in real time. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our Power Hour sponsors. First, our series presenting sponsor, 6P Marketing. Thank you, 6P, for your ongoing support of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce and for willingly embracing the opportunity to bring a new virtual series to life. And to today's event sponsors, Manitoba Trucking Association and Centerport, thank you both for your ongoing partnership with us. We are deeply grateful for your valuable work that you do every day to keep goods moving, champion industry, and support Manitoba's growth. And now to introduce our special guest, Honorable Ralph Eichler was elected as the MLA for Lakeside in 2003 and re-elected in 2007, 2011, 2016, and 2019. He was appointed Minister of Economic Development and Training in 2019, and his ministry was recently renamed to Economic Development and Jobs to ensure a dedicated focus of job creation. A business owner and former administrator for the Interlake School Division, Minister Eichler is an active volunteer in his community. He has served various organizations, including Toulon and Area Lions Club, the Stonewall Royal Canadian Legion, the Interlake Community Foundation Board, and the Toulon Golf and Country Club. Minister Eichler, take it away.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Peggy, for the opportunity to speak with your members today. Hope everybody's keeping as well as they can be. Of course, we want to make sure our number one priority is to keep Manitobans safe. But I want to extend my appreciation to the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce for the tremendous leadership role you have played on behalf of Manitoba businesses throughout the pandemic. You've been a strong and consistent voice for Manitoba businesses and their communities. For the past year, our government's first priority has been to protect Manitobans at each and every step. We recognize the great sacrifices that local businesses have made to safeguard Manitobans. To help prevent the spread of COVID-19, our government truly appreciates all you have done to serve your customers, your employees, and your communities during this unprecedented time. The Manitoba government was pleased to partner with the Manitoba Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Winnipeg to help us harness the leadership and experience of Manitoba business groups to create the $50 million long-term recovery fund. We know that even as we emerge from the pandemic and move into recovery, businesses will need support and will need to adapt and change to the new realities of the economy here at home and globally. Through this partnership, 2 programs have already been launched. $1.5 million to promote local businesses and the Good Local online shopping platform and delivery service in the capital region. The Dine-In Restaurant Relief Program that provides rebates to dine-in restaurants and that shifted to a delivery model due to public health restrictions. We recently announced to increase the support for the program from $5 million to $7 million under the expanded program. Restaurants in rural Manitoba and catering businesses that did not have established delivery models or experience significant revenue declines will be able to apply for financial rebates. We anticipate sharing more detail on the long-term recovery fund in the coming weeks. The Manitoba government has stood with business, workers, and entrepreneurs throughout the pandemic. We have provided the most generous COVID business supports per capita in the country. Last year, our government committed almost $500 million in COVID-19 supports to Manitoba businesses and organizations and nonprofits. Our wage subsidy, gap protection, and bridge grant programs have issued more than 50,000 payments to Manitoba businesses and nonprofits. This has helped to directly support the creation of over 17,000 jobs and has assisted companies and individuals employing an estimated 175,000 Manitobans. Over the 12-month period ending in February 2021, Manitoba posted the best job growth in the country. We are continuing to see growth in the labor market. For the month of March, our labor force increased by 6,700 people, and Manitoba's employment level increased by 6,300, following an increase of 16,200 positions in February. Our labor force increased by more than 12,000 in workers in 2021, and we had the second lowest unemployment rate in Canada. Manitoba businesses and entrepreneurs are resilient, and we will continue to push through this pandemic by working directly with our business communities. Recognizing that travel and tourism industry has been especially hit hard by public health orders and of course border restrictions, we partnered with the Manitoba Hotel Association and the Manitoba Lodges and Outfitters Association to launch a hospitality relief sector program. The program will provide up to $8 million in financial relief to Manitoba accommodation and tourism sector to provide funding to hotels and licensed resource tourism operators for fixed costs that have not been covered by other provincial or federal COVID-19 relief programs. As more and more Manitobans receive COVID-19 vaccines, we will enter into a new phase of addressing the significant challenges posed by the pandemic. Our government's focus will be to safely reopen and advance Manitoba's economy. Manitoba's roadmap to recovery includes new and ongoing measures to help our province recover economically, create jobs, and generate good incomes. Economic growth is at the center of our plan for a stronger, more prosperous Manitoba. Right now, Manitoba's economic outlook indicates a strong rebound in 2021, the real GDP raising 4.1%, followed by another solid year in 2022 with a growth of 3.6% of real growth. Budget 2021 commits $1.2 billion for continued costs associated with the pandemic, including $300 million for future contingency needs and including future business supports if required. $62 million has been committed for COVID-19 recovery job creation and workforce training that will help businesses find workers and workers find jobs. This funding will assist employers to offset the cost of retraining, returning, and new employees who have been displaced by the pandemic. As well, it will support a new digital platform to provide training, mentorship, and coaching for small businesses that require enhancements for their websites and e-commerce platforms. Yesterday, I announced that we have opened intake for the Canada-Manitoba Job Grant. We're investing $8 million for 2021-22 an increase of 2.3 million over last year to meet the demand and assist employers to better respond to the impacts of COVID-19. The application process has been streamlined to make it even easier for applicants to apply, and we have shortened the grant approval time. The Canada-Manitoba Job Grant helps employers offset the cost of training new employees or costs associated with developing the skills of their existing workers. Eligible employers can apply for up to $10,000 per employee to assist with training cost to a maximum of $100,000. Employers with over 100 employees must contribute a minimum of 50% of training cost, while employers with 100 or fewer employees must contribute a minimum of 25% of training cost. Just last week, we announced a new Manitoba Youth Jobs Program and Green Team grants. The province is investing $10 million in the Green Team grant programs to help an estimated 2,000 young Manitobans find summer employment and gain valuable work experience. The $15 million Manitoba Youth Jobs Program builds upon and streamlines the Manitoba Summer Student Recovery Jobs and Back to Work the summer programs, which help create and sustain more than 6,000 jobs for young Manitobans in 2020. The new program gives money to businesses faster, allow employers to be eligible to apply for an advance payment of up to $750 per eligible employee, up to $7,500. It broadens eligibility criteria to include all Manitoba youth under the age of 30. This allows employers to claim employees hired as early as April the 1st, 2021. And of course, it provides a 50% wage subsidy on all regular, overtime, statutory wages earned during the 18-week period, as opposed to a flat per hour wage subsidy. Advancing Manitoba's economic recovery also means planning for the future. Budget 2021 sets out two big steps to ensure Manitoba becomes the best place to invest and grow in Canada. Based on the recommendations of the Premier's Opportunity Advisory Board, we are creating a new private sector-led provincial economic development agency. The agency will lead Manitoba's activities and attract new private sector investment, increase international trade, and act as a single window for businesses and investors pursuing major economic development projects across our province. Our government will also undertake a tax competitiveness review and invite the views of Manitobans to ensure our province has a truly competitive taxation system for growth and job creation. Want to ensure Manitoba businesses and entrepreneurs are not held back in investing, building, and creating jobs. We're investing $750,000 over 3 years to Futurepreneur to help young entrepreneurs launch and sustain successful businesses. We'll continue to support investment through the Innovation Growth Program. Since the program launched in 2019, we invested $1.7 million in 23 small and medium-sized businesses, which is projected to create more than 900 jobs in 5 years. Through budget 2021, we are investing a further $2.1 million in the program to support small and medium-sized businesses, spur commercialization of innovative new products and services. We're making the interactive digital media tax credit permanent. We'll be modernizing and streamlining the program to reflect changes in the industry in order to attract increased investments and stimulate economic growth and job creation in the sector. Budget 2021 also enhances the small business venture capital tax credit to help Manitoba companies raise equity by increasing the tax credits available and advancing the return on those investments. We'll continue to believe and share the message that safe, healthy community includes healthy economy. We'll also continue to protect Manitobans so they can safely do business and return to work when it's time to do so. Again, I would like to thank the Manitoba Chamber for organizing this event. I'd like to encourage everyone to get their COVID-19 vaccine as soon as they are able and encourage others to do the same. It's been a real emotional time for business in this time that we're in. And certainly I know that I've had those calls. We have our stakeholder calls on a regular basis. I think it's really important we continue on our path together. I look forward to your questions and suggestions. Back to you.
Thank you, Minister Eichler, and thank you for taking part with us again today. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Not everybody on the line will know as well that on a weekly basis that you do convene a meeting with close to 45 different business organizations. You get an opportunity to share some of the things that the government is working on, but you also provide us with an opportunity to sometimes provide you with a little bit of advice, and whether you like it or not, in terms of some of the concerns that you're hearing from the business community. So I just want to start by really thanking you for providing that venue for the business community, because I think it's so important that the government is listening to some of the concerns from a business standpoint. I'll just get to, I think you're on mute here as well. So just maybe talk a little bit about, when this first started, and we've been kind of doing this for over a year, but from your perspective, how important is that to you in terms of being able to do your job, in terms of, being the Minister of Economic Development and Jobs, of having that direct pipeline to organizations and businesses that are really challenged by what's going on, when you're having those discussions around the cabinet table around programs and initiatives and thoughts that you might be having in terms of, public health measures?
Yeah, it's been great feedback, and I know that it's not all good news when I have these calls, and that's okay. I mean, for us to develop the programs that are going to be responsive to business needs, we need that feedback to be able to hear, and I can actually go to my cabinet colleagues and say, this is what I heard. This is why this is so important, and this is what we need to do in order to try and get there. Are we going to get them all right? No, we're not. But can we learn? Yes, we can. Can we do better? Yes, we can. But overall, I think that the plan that we have and the responses I've had is that we're doing this together. And government, quite frankly, shouldn't be all and end all for business. Most businesses don't really want government involved in their businesses from time to time. And we hear that as well. But so also when the time gets going and it's really tough, government needs to step up and be there for these businesses. So we've developed some programs, in concert with the feedback we've had from businesses. So I enjoy being with people. Otherwise I wouldn't be in politics, but certainly the feedback I have is good, informed discussions. I don't take any of it personally, but I know that we as a government have been listening and trying to respond in a timely manner in order to meet those needs of Manitoba businesses. So I know venues like this are so critically important, and not everybody's going to be able to be on the call. I get all that too. And we're always talking to mostly the same people, but it's people like the Manitoba Chamber and their members that actually help us, because they help spread the news, good or bad. And I know it's not all good, but certainly the news does get out there. And by having these opportunities, it's really critically important. So thanks for letting me explain that, Chuck.
Not a problem. So, Minister Eichler, we're going to go through we got some questions that have been provided in advance for those that are on the line. I think we've got over 100 people on the line as well. If they want to throw some questions into the chat function, type away, or into the Q&A function, I'll kind of manage those as we kind of go through. And we've got about half an hour to kind of have a bit of a discussion here. So, one of the things we're thrilled that the Manitoba Trucking Association has come on as a partner with us on this event. So, I know that they've got some questions as well. So I think we've got a video that we're going to play. We'll start off with the first question from the Manitoba Trucking Association and Terry Shaw and his team.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Odway. I'm the General Manager of Prairie International Container and Dray Service Inc. And I'm also the second Vice President of the Manitoba Trucking Association. Minister, my question for you is this. The past year has been one of governments trying to strike a balance between public health protocols and keeping the economy moving. It has also been a year of people saying not enough is being done and that too much is being done. What are some of the considerations undertaken by your department as you work to find a balance between these two concerns?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Essential workers cross-border vaccination initiatives have been great collaboration with the state of North Dakota. It started with a conversation between Premier Pallister and Governor Burgum, and quickly our teams collaborated in just a matter of a few days. Manitoba Trucking Association quickly got on board. I know as soon as I had reached out to Terry Shaw, they were just amazing, and cooperation between the Trucking Association, our government, and of course the officials from North Dakota. Of course, North Dakota has a surplus of vaccine. Not everybody's got the vaccine there, of course, but certainly all of it has an expiry date. So what they did, they said, look, we want to help our neighbors. We want Manitobans to be able to come back and shop in North Dakota. And of course, they set up this site just across the border at the rest area, for those that are familiar with the area, as a rest area, and they could administer the vaccine while they were there. But I do want to say thank you to the Manitoba Trucking Association for all that they've done, not just on this deal, but keeping our economy going, keeping the goods and services that we need. As many members of the Manitoba Chamber well know, supply has been a problem for us. And without the truckers being responsive, many businesses would not be able to operate as a result of that. So they've stepped up. They've taken a lot of heat from different organizations, and not everybody was necessarily in love with a trucker. They wouldn't let them use washrooms. They wouldn't serve them coffee, all those things that come. But yet they were trying to provide a service to Manitobans and keep our economy going. So I just want to put a plug in for them, not only for sponsoring this Power Hour, but one that really helps us sustain our economy and keeps us moving.
Minister Eichler, I wonder if we can just build off that a little bit, just in regards to, and Jeff talked a lot about that balance between public health measures as well as the economy. And I know the last time that we had you on for one of these events, we were just about to head into, the second wave. And at that point in time that we took measures, and public health was recommending measures in terms of going to that total lockdown. And, a number of businesses in retail and restaurants were basically locked down entirely. This time around, going into that third wave, the government's taken a bit of a different approach and made the decisions, as businesses have been able to reopen, is, when there was this heavy call for the lockdown again, the decision was made that the transmission wasn't occurring within businesses, and locking down businesses again was not the approach to take. So I'm just wondering, in terms of if you can elaborate a little bit just on maybe on case of what we've learned over the past 6 months, and the approach of getting that balance so that, a lot of our business owners do have the ability to continue to operate while we're still addressing where the real transmission was occurring in public health, which, as Dr. Roussin has continually said, is through gatherings and other things that are not necessarily business related.
Yeah, really, really good questions. And one thing we've learned from early on when it comes to the testing, we didn't have enough boots on the ground, so to speak, for actually tracing where COVID come from, and how did it get into our workplace? How did it get into our restaurants? How did it get into any sector that you want to talk about? So we upped our game in that respect, and I think we're doing a lot better job. but the number one priority is the health and safety of Manitobans throughout our pandemic. The majority of our citizens, until they get vaccinated, is going to be a concern for us. You know, we started with the oldest, of course, and working down to the younger generation, anybody that's over 18. So what we do is we've been following the evidence is what we've been doing that comes to our public health officials. And of course, we bring in policies that help us curtail the virus as it moves and trying to prevent it from moving. So our healthcare orders have to be really strict. Manitobans, I want to say thank you everyone that's been following. As we know, we all don't necessarily agree with the whole COVID thing. People that really understand it and how the spread of it is, certainly it's a little easier to deal with them. But we have the anti-maskers, we have the challenges. I know last week, for example, at the Human Rights Museum, they had a rally, anti-COVID rally, anti-mask. Some of the restaurants were challenged. They wanted to be arrested. So they went into a restaurant, putting other people at risk and that restaurant. So that the two particular cases that was brought to my attention, they simply dealt with them. They did it calmly, properly, and they made sure that their customers stayed safe. So Manitobans, I would say the majority of Manitobans understand and get it, but it is a challenge, and every business has been challenged. And that's what we do as business owners. And not everybody knows I had my own businesses. I had several businesses over my lifetime, but certainly business is one of those things that's for risk takers. It's not for the faint of heart. And anybody that's built a business know that you put your own sweat and tears and love and not only your money in it, but you impact so many lives as a result of your experience as a business owner. So it's not easy, but at the end of the day, you really create the respect that you should have and the respect that you earn by the actions that you take. And that's really, I think, really important.
And it's interesting as well that you kind of make that comment, Minister, just in regards to, looking at things through that business lens. And I think that's important when government is making decisions on policy is understanding some of the challenges that businesses are dealing with as they're kind of going through this. So I'm just wanting maybe talk a little bit about, some of the programs that, you touched on some of those, and, we've been involved with the Restaurant Relief and the Hotel Association, a number of other programs, bringing in programs like that are really targeted to help businesses that are really impacted by this. And is that been really the focus of the government now? Is, I think we've said it from the beginning, not all businesses are equal in terms of the impact that COVID has had on them. So how important is it that we're looking at sector specific and really targeted programs that can really address the needs of what those business challenges are?
Yeah, that's a real good question, Chuck. When we look at these programs, what we're trying to do is keep our economy moving, keep those dollars, those trading dollars current. One of the things that we've done with small and medium-sized business that faced major challenges throughout the pandemic, and that local businesses have made great sacrifices, to protect Manitobans. What we've done, we're also lowering payroll taxes for small businesses, as I talked about in my comments. The exemption threshold is being raised from 1.5 million to 1.75 million in annual payroll, and the threshold below which employers pay a reduced rate is being raised from 3 million to 3.5 million. This will put $10 million back in the hands of small businesses. It will benefit approximately 1,100 Manitoba employers and completely exempt approximately 240 Manitoba employers from paying payroll tax whatsoever. We're also enhancing small business venture capital credit to help Manitoba companies raise business growth equity. And of course, Manitoba's identified over 62 million to support Pacific COVID-19 recovery job creation, workforce training that has helped small business and others. Also, this funding will help Manitobans re-enter the workforce. I know I used this example last time, but it's still true today. A local market gardener never had a website, and he went on his website. It's such a great story that when we first had the pandemic rolled out, we didn't allow greenhouses to open up. So a lot of them went digital and developed websites. And he did 3 times his business last year. Yes, it was a special year. A lot of people were at home, but still the point of this whole conversation in this particular case is about thinking outside the box. How do we start thinking outside the box, and what can we do as business owners to get that business? I mean, even our good local initiative that we work through your department and Economic Development Winnipeg has been such a hit, and I'm not trying to single out Obby on this thing, but Obby stepped up to the plate. He did a great job, and a lot of those businesses partnered together to bring together a new environment to support local businesses. And that's really what it's all about. Not everybody wants to shop Amazon or the big boxes. They want to support that local company. And this was a made in Manitoba solution that has taken over in other parts of the country as well. So we got lots of things that are going on that are really good for Manitobans.
It's interesting you mentioned Obby, Minister Eichler, because the first question that comes in through the chat function, of course, is from my good friend Obby Khan. And so I'm just going to read what Obby's kind of put in. Hello, Minister Eichler. I wanted to thank you and your government for all you're doing for local business. Because of you and the Chamber and your investment in supporting local and for the investment in good local, your contribution has led to almost $1 million in sales directly back in the hands of small local businesses. That's a more than 2-to-1 return on your government's investment into local business. And then he says, now my question is, as the pandemic goes on, will there be continued support for new innovative technologies that link and support local businesses?
Thanks, Obby, for your kind words. And of course, yes, to your answer, there's always ongoing supports. Is it to the level that they maybe need to be? Probably not, but certainly we're always open to new suggestions, new ideas. One of the things that Manitoba needs to do a better job on, and Chuck, you and I have had this conversation, and that's on digital Main Street. How do we get to a new level? And when I say that, it's not putting anyone down or any business down. It's about giving them the tools that they need. One of that is broadband that we've been working really hard on, and high fiber optic cables in order to get that digital data where we need it. But most importantly, how do we get that marketplace? How do we find that? Digital Main started in Toronto, I believe is where it started, but certainly it's at a whole new level of what it was. When you talk about companies like Bold Commerce, another Manitoba company that has stepped up and went outside their bounds, outside that comfort zone in order to be able to help businesses get to where they are today. And we need to do more of that. We need to make them whole. And some of our initiatives we go forward will be based on some of that digital Main or digital marketplace in order to meet the needs of Manitobans. And of course, that market, and I know you didn't ask this, but I'm going to jump in here anyway and tell you, Chuck, interprovincial trade, I'm the lead minister on that, and it's been, the Premier Pallister had put me on this file for a reason. That would bring our GDP by 25% automatically is what it would do for our overall economy. So really critically important, that interprovincial trade thing. We're almost there, Chuck. We're almost there. I can see the window and I can see the smoke coming out of the chimney, but I don't know where the fire is, but it's somewhere. I hope it's in Manitoba.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit then, because that has been an issue, you know, when we'll talk about trade in a little bit as well, is just on interprovincial trade. And it's been an issue for the Chamber network for forever. And it's been a topic that's been discussed. And, you know, it's not necessarily trade. It's more in terms of what are the rules and regulations in terms of different jurisdictions and how problematic that can be for business. And I know that the Premier is tasked this as something that's a priority, and we've done a good job in terms of addressing some of those things. So talk a little bit more, you know, sort of in your role as leading that initiative. You know, is this that real opportunity that, you know, we've got all these trade deals with other countries that are a better situation than we have within our own provinces here in Canada, which is, you know, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
No, you're absolutely right. It's exciting to when you talk with us, but I have to give Dominique LeBlanc a bit of credit here. He's been fantastic to work with on this particular file with interprovincial trade. So basically where we are right now, we got 2 outstanding issues with Alberta, 2 outstanding issues with Quebec. Our last meeting, he undertook to try and resolve those 4 issues that we had. I have to say, our New West partnership is working really well with Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. It's kind of helped us pave the way. But when we look at what we're going to do with internal trade barriers, it just makes such a difference to our GDP. To your point, Chuck, most of it's common sense stuff. And when we get red tape in the way, that's really what happens, is we get those barriers being put up through protectionism. For what reason? I just really don't get it. But anyway, we're trying to knock them all down. And because of those barriers, it's limited some of our ability to be able to make those contacts as well. So, liberalizing, it seems like beer and alcohol is one of the most toughest ones. I mean, I like both beer and alcohol, that all in moderation, of course.
And we can compete with everyone else too. So
we can.
We've got providers here, like guys like Farmery and others, that would love to be able to get into other jurisdictions.
Yeah, it just seems like, if there's one of them that keeps me awake at night, is those. Yeah, because we have great products. And you know what? The beer movement alone, just with the microbreweries and all the other things that's been around for a while, when our premier brings it up, he gets so passionate about these other ministers and premiers around the country. We really want to be able to move this thing forward. So we're excited about it. Labor mobility is another part of it, is that as we look at our trades and so on, making sure we're lock in step in order to meet the needs of Manitobans.
Let's go to our second question that we have from the Manitoba Trucking Association. We'll play the video for this one.
Minister Eichler, on behalf of the Manitoba trucking industry, we'd like to thank you and your department for vaccinating truck drivers through the Essential Worker Cross-Border Vaccination Initiative. Could you explain the process of developing this program?
Well, thanks for the question, and say hi to Rick for me. I don't know if Rick is still there, but I know he's a Harley rider, just like me as a minister. I know his father was a Harley rider too. So anyway, say hi for me. I certainly appreciate it. Of course, as I've said before, the health and safety of Manitobans throughout the pandemic has certainly been our number one priority. We follow the evidence. We listen to the advice of public health officials. We put in place public health orders to protect our families, communities, and of course, our healthcare system. We recognize that these restrictions have had a profound impact on businesses. So we have implemented almost $500 million in support for those businesses hardest hit by the pandemic. And of course, the restrictions that impact them as well. The gap protection program, the bridge grant, wage subsidy programs, dine-in restaurant relief program, hospitality sector relief program, all of these initiatives are designed to help businesses weather this pandemic storm. However, we also know that our economy needs to be advanced beyond COVID-19. Budget 2021 announced a range of measures to get our economy back on the path to grow, including reducing the tax burden, investing in training, reskilling employees, launching youth wage subsidy programs, and confirming to commit to creating provincial economic development agency to lead our investment and trade efforts. Essential workers as well, border vaccine initiatives have been a great collaboration, not just with the state of North Dakota, but when we talk about that, it's so important that we have the steps in place to protect Manitobans as quickly as we possibly can. And of course, our communications on that is really important as well. I know the North Dakota officials are anxious as they want to reopen our our US-Canada border. Manitoba don't have a say in that, by the way. It's a federal issue. We know it's something that Manitobans and Canadians and Americans would like to resume. I know just on the Lodge and Outfitter Association, they're getting calls on a regular basis. Our operators in Churchill are getting calls. People are anxious. They want to get out and visit. They want to be part of our growing economy. There's been a lot of money saved. I've seen a number of about $90 billion Manitobans be able to sock away. They haven't been able to travel. They're ready. They're ready. As soon as we can get this COVID under control and we get the vaccine in as many arms as Manitobans we possibly can, I think we'll see a slowly reopen of that and be able to help Manitoba businesses do what they do well, and that's service Manitobans and look after Manitobans in a timely and efficient manner.
Minister, we'll talk a little bit about tourism in a second, but I just want to touch as well, since the last time that we talked back in October, there's been some cabinet changes, and specifically in regards to your own department from, in the past it was economic development and training to economic development and jobs. And I'm just wondering in regards to what that means for your department, and should we be concerned that economic development in the training area are no longer as connected as they were when they were in your department?
Good question, and a fair question. I really liked economic development training with post-secondary being under my ministry. Premier and I had this conversation, I'll be happy to share with your members. When we were talking about economic recovery and COVID, a number of things happened. It was so big, I just didn't have the time that I needed to dedicate to it. So we branched off. Part of post-secondary apprenticeship is still under my particular program. Immigration moved out as well, but certainly it gives me more time to focus on rebuilding our economy and focusing not on just recovery programs, but what is it that we're going to be able to do to grow our economy? What is the gaps that we have as a result of it? So we're going to do a full deep review of our department. In fact, we'll be launching a public announcement on that very, very soon. Because I think it's really important that Manitobans understand what we're going to do as we start to rebuild our economy and what training sources we need to do. So that's still under my program now, under my ministry. So that's really important. Manitobans, as I said in my opening comments, a lot of them are going to have to be retrained. And as we move forward, and it keeps coming back, if you look at business, it's always the same, but it's not the same. How do we change? How do we adapt? And that's an ongoing basis. And business that's successful are the ones that are be able to pivot quickly to meet those needs. So when we look at training dollars and people, we got a lot of great Manitobans that want to do a good job. They just don't have the training they need to be able to get them to where they need to be for that particular business that they're in. I'll give you a clothing friend of mine that was mainly just walk in the store, buy your dress. They went online. They totally changed the way they do business. 92% of their sales is online now. And as a result of them pivoting and making this opportunity for them to be able to get their new products out there, actually, it's so funny the way you look at it, because now the staff are actually the models. They're not these all number 10s and guys and gals. These are people that are in the store, employees that now become models. And it's everyday people helping everyday people. So it's a hit, it's a win for all the businesses when you start thinking outside the box and having those opportunities. And as the Minister of Economic Development Jobs gives me that focus, that lens that I need to focus on, rather than try and be all and end all to everyone. But certainly we work very well together. Minister Wasco does a good job there. His background is in education, so it's a nice fit for him as well. But who knows, I might be back at that file another day. But right now I'm enjoying what I have to do, and I enjoy doing this every day, helping Manitobans with their businesses.
Is that key as well in your role, is having a good understanding of what businesses are doing as part of that pivot, and then helping to develop some of those programs that, as you kind of talk about, and I've been saying as well, that, a year ago, I didn't know what Zoom was. I mean, we never had these kind of discussions online and those kind of things. And, we've moved to such a virtual world, and so many, whether it's, employers and retailers have also recognized that, sort of the days of the old time bricks and mortar store are gone. And then, I think that's, Abby kind of touched on that as well. And in terms of having sort of that online presence provides you with a greater ability. So is this something you're looking forward more in terms of developing programs and initiatives to really support those new businesses and that new direction that they need to kind of go in?
Yeah, as much as I'm not that type of a person, I'm more of a people person. I like to crush the flesh, as they say, and that's not because I'm a politician. That's just the way I've been my entire life as a child growing up and mainly on a farm. We never had a lot of visitors on the farm, so it's kind of back like that now with business. But we certainly have acquaintances. We build relationships through either Zoom or Teams or whatever network that you decide you want to use. But certainly that is our future. That's the way it's going to be. And the sooner we deal with that, the better. I know I probably do the same number of events that I did before, maybe more, but certainly we're very comfortable now with this. Do I want to go back? Absolutely, I do. But the reality of it is we're not ever going to go back the way we were. But we have a better understanding and connectivity, if you will, to be able to bring one another together. And quite frankly, we can manage our businesses or governments to be able to adapt to those changes to bring us together for that connectivity. And that connectivity helps us as we build our businesses, our economies in either way. I know I've certainly had discussions online with people from Australia that want to come and do business in Manitoba. I had people from New Zealand. I got people from France. And we did talk to them before, but we never really used Zoom or Teams. It was more, pick up the phone, talk to them. Never they got to build a relationship. You did, but you didn't. Now we have this virtual ability to be able to connect and say, hey, you are redheaded and you got a little chubby cheeks there, buddy. Yeah, I thought you were a tall, dark, handsome man, but they said, oh, you're a redhead. But anyway, so now they understand really what we're about. And that's really, I think, important for Manitobans to be able to connect with who they're talking to.
Being a minister for economic development, as well as having being an MLA in rural Manitoba as well. I mean, the challenges with the quality of broadband in Manitoba. And again, this is something that I think more and more people are doing business online. They're doing learning online. Their healthcare is online. Just the importance of that broadband throughout the province has been raised substantially. I wonder if maybe you can talk a little bit about, and this discussions that we've had with the infrastructure minister as well, just in regards to the importance of making investments in that digital infrastructure and how that's going to be a key component for the future. I know this is something the federal government has put some programs in place, but how do we really capitalize on this and take advantage of what we have here to ensure that we've got a much better quality of broadband in Manitoba to meet the needs of the business community moving forward?
Absolutely. You're bang on, Chuck, bang on. We are going to increase the broadband connectivity to rural and remote and indigenous communities and expect to cover up those gaps. Even you think about Winnipeg and Stony Mountain's close to Winnipeg, but there's a zone there, there's no service at all. And, it's literally 8 kilometers past the perimeter. So what's going on here? So when you look at it, we need and have to increase broadband and fiber optics in Manitoba. We got a lot of great companies. I won't name any of them, but certainly we know what the federal government's going to do in partnership with us through the ISEP programs is one of them that Minister Heller will be announcing very soon. The federal government's 2021 budget includes $2.75 billion for Universal Broadband Fund to support high-speed internet projects to rural and remote communities. Also, the federal government is committed to ensuring 98% of Canadians are connected to high-speed internet by 2026, which seems like a long time away, but here we are in 2021 already, but all Canadians by 2030. So we're encouraged the federal government to act quickly on their commitments. I know certainly through our ISEP programs, Some of those were in there on broadband. Certainly, our infrastructure as we have it now is really, and we've seen this mainly because Manitobans are working from home more now than ever, and impacted housing, and people have to have those services available to them. So a lot of them are improvising. There's a lot of satellites that have popped up. It's more than just broadband. Satellites, another area that I think is really critically important. So we have some proposals that's on our table now to try and move that. But we'll work with Manitoba Hydro as well. They've had some black fiber in the ground for a number of years. And part of our fiber optic program will certainly be in partnership with Manitoba Hydro and the various municipalities. A lot of municipalities have taken on their own to actually partner with the federal government, the province, and their communities to try and provide that service to them, mainly in southern Manitoba at the current level. But certainly I see that going forward, you know, especially the rural networks and those to see them expand.
Mr. Some of the industries in part of your portfolio as well, you know, looking after the economy, there are certain industries and certain sectors that have done all right through the COVID situation. There are others, obviously, and you know, those are very, very clear in terms of retail and hospitality and fitness industry, and others that have not performed as well and have been a little bit more challenged and operating at close to 25% capacity for the past year. You know, one of the things that your government did bring in place was the Bridge Grant program. And this was back in November and has done a number of tranches since that time. And you mentioned in your comments as well that there's additional dollars set aside for potential additional business supports if needed. You know, and I'd be hesitant. I would have to ask the question. You know, is the province looking at, because businesses continue to be at a 25% capacity, you know, looking at potentially another tranche of the Bridge Grant program for those businesses that continue to be challenged here in Manitoba?
Yeah, we have 300 million that I talked about in my opening comments that we've set aside for this actually to happen if we need it. What I've heard from Manitobans and on our calls on a regular basis is that businesses want to be able to get back to capacity and make their own money, have their employees back at work and do those things. But if we need to do another program, we certainly will. It may not be the same program we had before. It might be, nobody wants to pick winners and losers because that's not a win for everyone. But when we see there's a shortfall in a particular area, that's where we need to go. And that's actually what we're doing with the vaccine as well. When we see hotspots, we're starting to move over into those pockets, try to deal with that, contain that. And the same with the business supports. How do we contain it? How do we make those businesses whole? How do we try and help them? As I said earlier on, and I've said it several times during our conversation here, Chuck, is that business wants to be able to do what they do well, and that's look after their customer base. They all got that DNA in them. They have the understanding that they want to be able to connect with their customers, but if we need some programs to keep them alive, that's what we want at the end of the day.
You talked as well, and we've only got a couple of minutes left, and you talked about two key components in regards to the economic recovery that were in the budget as well. One was the tax competitiveness review, which, you know, was music to the ears of the chamber network, is something we've been calling for as long as I can remember. And the second was one that the province has talked about before, which was the private sector-led economic development agency. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. It was something that was announced in the throne speech back in November. It was re-announced in the budget. You know, where are we at in regards to this new economic development agency, and what do you see kind of its role moving forward here in Manitoba?
Yeah, thanks for that. This started off kind of as a consultation when COVID kind of first come out. It was led by Kirk Boston, who was the head of the Manitoba Business Council. So we talked about a number of things, whether it be capital and investments to recover from the impacts of COVID-19, and how do we attract business. So we're not doing away with the Economic Development Office. We'll still have that along with Economic Development Agency. So when we announced that in the throne speech in October of last year, there was a lot of interest in how do we connect businesses. And we've seen this just with Roquette, for example. I'll use that one that developed in Port-au-Prairie. So there's spin-off things that come a result of that. And how does business get involved in that, and how do they see it? We've seen restaurants come into Port Elizabeth Prairie as a result of that. They got a Popeyes, they got others that are coming as a result of that. So opportunities come, but the agency will help us try to be able to hear what businesses are talking about, what those needs to be, and how do we attract them, and of course maintain them, and have the private sector lead on this, not necessarily government, but private sector lead. And you see that all the time, whether it's a small mom and pop or a multi-billion-dollar business. How does that work? How do you make those connectivities with international trade, global trade? How do we do that? And of course, the talent. Manitoba has so much hidden talent. We are so divested in different sectors. We're very fortunate to have the diversity that we have in Manitoba, one that keeps our economy strong and keeps it growing on a not a rocket, but a slow, steady growth, which has made Manitoba a place where Manitoba and others want to grow and prosper and grow their business in. Quite frankly, I think it's a real plus for us.
And do you have a time? Are you still looking at a time frame for this economic development office, or is this?
It's very close. It's very close. We're working on it on a regular basis. Part of our reorg was a part of that, so we had to do our reorg first. But certainly, it'll tie in very nicely. So I'm thinking probably by fall we'll have this thing up and running, which will be fantastic.
Excellent. Minister Eichler, you and I could have discussions all day about the economy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to always, be open to having these discussions with the Chamber Network. So, on behalf of our network, I want to thank you for all the work that you've been doing over the course of this past year, and thank you for taking the time with us today.
Certainly my pleasure, Chuck. Thanks for the questions and of course the feedback. That's always important. I know your membership reaches out to you. You're the messenger that they, and sometimes you have to be totally frank about it, and you have been, and that's really the relationship that we have to have as Manitobans to be able to get through this together. So it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me be on your show and let me have a few words with your membership. So.
Perfect. Minister, before we throw it back to Peggy May for some closing comments, we are going to play a video from one of our other partners and sponsors for today's event, and that would be Centerport. So we're going to play a quick video from Centerport, and then Peggy May will wrap things up. Thank you, sir.
Perfect.
Great video. Thank you, Minister Eichler, and thank you, Chuck, for an excellent discussion today. Through COVID-19, our business community has been confronted with a whole host of new economic realities. We're not out of the woods yet, obviously, but we have some glimmers of hope there. From Manitoba Chambers of Commerce perspective, our province must remain competitive to attract investment, but in addition to securing new investment, now more than ever, we must champion our existing entrepreneurs and SMEs particularly those in the hospitality, food services, and travel and tourism industries. They employ hundreds of thousands of Manitobans, and they're still operating in a precarious position. We need to help them weather this storm. We must also continue working to enable access to capital to help Manitoba-born success stories scale up their operations. Finally, government must be prepared to support the creation of good quality jobs that enable Manitobans to thrive, not just survive, while investing in digital infrastructure to ensure all Manitobans can participate equally in the economy. Again, thank you, Minister Eichler, for sharing an update with us today. And thank you to 6P Marketing, Manitoba Trucking Association, and Centerport for all of our participants today. Up next, join us next week on May 12th for a discussion of the commercial insurance market, an issue that we know is very relevant right now, followed by our Manitoba Economic Summit and our 90th annual general meeting on May the 13th. Following that, our next Manitoba Poli Power Hour is on May the 25th with Ministers Stephenson and Gordon, so be sure to join us for those. You can check out those events online at jointhechamber.ca and register to join us for free. Have a great rest of your day. We look forward to seeing you all next week. Stay safe, everyone.